person.
Let's kill Hitler!
Okay. How?
Oh, we're recording. We should probably talk about Doctor Who.
Oh, God, right.
Hi, you dirty little scrubs. How you doing, everyone? Welcome to Doctor Who Review. Gentleman and his much better half discuss Doctor Who from the very bloody beginning. It's a video podcast. You don't need to be watching it. It's mostly to listen to. But isn't the diorama pretty? We have an episode-accurate Amy. This figure was released in a B&M pack about 3-4 years ago.
Here's a you.
I remember when it came out, I was like, I recognise the outfit, I don't recognise where it's from. And then we watched Let's Kill Hitler, and my brain went, ah, yeah!
So is it essentially the same figure as all the other Amy's, but she's just wearing different clothes?
This one is the, well, there's not counting the two variants of Amelia Pond, there are 3 Amy figures, but 2 of them are technically the same, but the paint applications are different. So this one is a newer version of the original Amy figure, which is the Victory of the Daleks red jumper, brown jacket, blue skirt, boots figure. This is the same as that, but painted to have the denim jacket and the different blouse and the belt on the skirt and tights and whatnot. So I don't know if the shoes are accurate here, but it looks great. It's a really nice repaint. The other Amy is the policewoman outfit, which came in a Christmas Carol 2-pack with this TARDIS, which is a batteryless version of the TARDIS with white windows.
That's weird.
But it's extra weird when you then watch the episode and we're like, why is the policewoman outfit Amy a figure in the... Oh, okay, that's weird. They never did a Roman Rory, which would have been easy because for the Pandorica wave in 2010, they did a Roman. So you could very easily have re-released that with one of the Rory heads at one point.
They never did a Roman Rory?
No, even though they did a Roman, and they eventually, to be fair, they didn't get around to doing Rory till like 2013.
Yeah, I remember that.
But you could easily, like in a B&M pack, put a Rory head on the Roman body and be like, there you go, there's a lone centurion
really
figure.
Weird. What an odd choice.
Around this time, though, they start botching it with the toys. There's a lot of toys for Series 6, and then it disappears because the range changes in scale, and it starts becoming more about what's cheaper to do. So it's lots of Doctors and lots of Daleks because you know they're going to sell, but then eventually it becomes just that. And for the episodes we're talking about, I did have a Peg doll action figure, but it was sold in the year of the money made for wedding times.
Wedding.
Was
it worth it? Was it?
Yeah, absolutely. But you could have had touch bots. You could have had older Amy. You could have had variants of the Peg dolls, and you could have had at least a river based on this episode.
Is there a river? Oh yeah,
they've only ever done 3. 5 rivers.
Oh god.
One is her based on Sounds in the Library, which we've got, though mine's a dodgy one because it's got 2 right hands. I wish it was the McFarlane Chucky from back in the day because then it'd be worth hundreds of pounds. We got a river with the Series 5 wave, which is the one I've sold, which is her in her outfit from the finale Series 5. We got the river with the Pandorica chair, which is a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I've kept that one. It's the Series 5 finale outfit, but she's got the jacket on as well, like the fluffy collared jacket.
Yeah.
And then there is a variant of the... Spoilers! Appropriately. There's a variant of the astronaut with River inside it. And there's a variant of the astronaut, which I had, with the child inside it. Which, of course, is technically River. Spoilers. Anyway, if you're watching this, you've already watched these episodes. I'm Chris.
I'm not Chris.
Let's talk Let's Kill Hitler. I hated this one so much less than I remember hating it on this revisit.
Okay.
But I think I'm biased because it was the first one we watched. One of the first ones we watched on our new telly. It's like the 4th one we've watched in a row on the new TV.
Yeah.
So the upscale looked fantastic. So it kind of felt like I was watching a new thing. And I haven't watched it. This was one of the last Time Team articles the second Time Team for DWM, wrote, but was never published. It was like the last one we wrote. So the last time I watched this was 7 years ago. And I don't have fond memories of the last time I watched it because of the way we were sort of jilted and we were all really annoyed about it. And I don't remember thinking on broadcast that this was particularly great either. I enjoyed it a lot more this time.
Good.
It is very flawed, but I enjoyed it more. Turns out Amy and Rory's best mate Mel's from when they were growing up is River.
Hold on, guys. These.
Bless you. Preemptive bless you. Oh, second bless you. That one was adorable.
Hold on, I'm going to do it again.
Oh, God. Mel's, many bless yous, many blessings be upon your ladder.
God.
So,
Yeah, it was me.
turns out their best mate Mel's that they grew up with, who essentially, like, got them to date each other and everything, Amy and Rory, is the second, at least we think, incarnation of River after the child. Which is unusual because she regenerates in, like, early 1970s New York. So she looked like Mel's, like, since the 70s. Because, no, she's definitely a child when Amy and Rory are younger kids and Caitlin Blackwood returns to play Amy in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Which is always nice to see, because she's adorable.
She is.
Mel's is younger, and then she grows up with Amy and Rory. It's like, well, hang on. How long has she been that kid? Yeah, so she got her mum and dad, she got them hooked up, basically. And then is also fully aware that it's her mum and dad.
Yeah, how's that?
Well, I don't know if they even answer that, but the point is that we know she's been assigned by the Silence, which is the episode where we learn they're a religious order, not a species.
Yeah.
So we know it's the whole group we've seen for the series so far. The Silence have trained her to kill the Doctor. Like, that is clear now.
But
And she is arrested in the future. She's in the Storm Cage prison.
Yeah.
Serving time for a murder, and it's obviously the show is going. You've put two and two together now, everyone. Like, she eventually kills the Doctor. They've not outright said it, but it's obvious that that's what they're leaning into. She kills the Doctor, and she's done a bad murder. She kills the Doctor, and that's what gets her in the Storm Cage.
What that's from. These points get you nothing.
The other quotes I want to do now, I'm not going to. So she kills the Doctor in this, or tries to. She kisses him with, like, poison lipstick or whatever, and it begins to kill him.
Like Poison Ivy style.
Yeah, rubber lips are immune to your charms.
Rubber sheets, squeegee.
Very different Batman.
Points, extra points if you know what that's from.
Clean up aisle 69. That's a big supermarket. And then bang goes.
Oh, in jokes the only weekend.
Oh dear.
I love it.
The battery's running out. We really need to
Sorry,
dilly-dally on this one.
It
Like, she kills the Doctor in this, but we learn that this isn't how it's meant to happen, because... So Mel hijacks the TARDIS and goes, I've got a gun, you got a time machine, what the heck, let's kill Hitler. So she takes the TARDIS hostage. I mean, I like the Doctor, I like Amy and Rory getting reunited with the Doctor by making a crop circle pattern.
Yeah.
That he eventually gets wind of. and then shows up and he's like, really?
And then there's a line through it and they're like, oh, we didn't do that.
And then they hear a car.
And that's a ridiculous opening.
It's a great opening. It's a really good opening, but it's and I like the idea of the episode just being, they've got a childhood mate who we've not learned about yet, who listened to all the Raggedy Man stories, believed them, became obsessed with the Doctor, although we realised she already was, that's the twist, because she's been trained to find him and kill him. And then she shows up and she's like, right, I want to take you hostage, I've been thinking about this for years, let's kill Hitler!
So was it like an after-school club? Were they taking her in and be like, okay, now you've done your maths and your PE, let's
Well, that's
train
the
you
thing
to
she
kill.
says later on as well, it's like, you always worried about not raising me, well, you did. And it's like, this doesn't count, surely.
I don't understand! What?
Hanging out with her throughout your child and your teens, that feels
Here's
like
a question.
That feels like a nice, neat, well, we don't want to, it's horrible they don't get to raise their kids, so we'll just say that they sort of raised her by being her best mate and didn't realise it. It's like...
Here's a question for you. The Doctor can regenerate into a woman, can regenerate into different ages. Can they regenerate into a child?
Theoretically, yes. Although up to this point in the show, there's not been any contextual evidence of it being anything other than, slightly younger or slightly older white male. Like that. The Corsair, the mention of the Corsair's regeneration in The Doctor's Wife is the first on-screen confirmation that it isn't just they just stay as a guy. That's the first confirmation that no, literally, they can change gender. The Ninth Doctor obviously makes a joke about, I could have two heads, I could have no head. Don't say that. No, imagine me with no head, and don't say that's an improvement. Obviously, retroactively, that's him being completely serious.
Yeah. I want to see a baby Doctor.
Oh, the novelisation of Rose by Russell T Davies, the Target novelisation from a few years ago. Clyde in his shed has all these other incarnations, and obviously, like, as Rose is going through these files, and Clyde's like crudely numbered them because it looks like he's looking for a pattern. You, the reader, can guess from the descriptions and whatnot that it's like, yeah, he's figured out the order of them. Like, it's all of them up to Jodie, even. And this was written before her. No, this was written after her confirmation. No, it was published after her confirmation, but written before.
Right.
But Russell just sort of had a feeling about like her appearance, so I wouldn't be surprised if he'd like given Chibnall a nudge and be like, "Could you just give me a couple little clues? I won't give anything away, but do you know what I mean?" So like all the 13 bar the War Doctor are like mentioned, and then afterwards there is a tall, bald black woman wielding a flaming sword. Is the next one along, and as of this recording, which is March 2022. All the rumours about Tanea Miller being a potential 14th Doctor, a tall black actor who usually has her head shaved. I wonder if you've seen Tanea Miller in it. You must have seen her in something or other. She's absolutely phenomenal. She does show up very briefly in a Doctor Who story in the Capaldi era.
Well, that's tradition.
As a Time Lord. Yeah, so there we go. She doesn't wear a stupid hat like Colin Baker does, though.
She's a Time Lord in it.
Yes, she's the general from the 50th. I'm going to tell you now, just so you can stew in it for a couple months. Capaldi shoots him dead, and then he regenerates. So she's already appeared in Doctor Who.
Oh shit!
Yeah, from Haunting of Hill House or Bly Manor.
Bly Manor. Yeah,
she's phenomenal. She is currently my top pick for 14.
Nice.
Like, I think she'd be incredible, and if we predicted this, then yay.
I feel like she'd be a pretty badass.
She's worked with Russell as well before. Like, she was phenomenal in Years and Years, and like she would be an excellent inclusion. And the description certainly matches her physical description, so it's like maybe. But one of the other incarnations he talks about was a young boy or maybe a girl in a floating wheelchair, accompanied by a robotic dog. So it's like, so a future incarnation might be a nondescript or gender fluid young character with a new canine. And it's like, well, that'd be awesome. That'd be different.
Or
Texter. It could be Texter.
Could be Texter.
You do realise the only reason we have Texter really is canine, right? That and Japanese toys. Anyway! The reason why we're deviating is because this episode's sort of a nothing, really. Like, what actually happens in the runtime? We learn that River's been there since Amy and Rory were kids, keeping an eye on everything so that one day she could get to the Doctor. She's probably been placed there, or she's figured out a way to get there so that she could be there in time to show up in his timeline. Which means she has been brainwashed from a super young age, which means the call for help from the spacesuit trying to gobble her up was probably a trap in the first place.
Right.
Like, her calling for help and all this, that and the other meant that she created a scenario, like Nixon getting all these phone calls and whatnot, that would eventually end up attracting the notice of the Doctor, who would go to investigate it.
Yeah.
So she probably wasn't being attacked by the spacesuit. She was probably using the whole situation to lure him in.
So why was there evidence that she was crawling out of it?
Because she's crawled out of the suit? I don't know.
In an aggressive way?
Yeah, I don't think Moffat thought about this either. Because maybe she's fighting against her conditioning, but we know she isn't, because Mel's has been playing a very long game to get to this point. Why she doesn't just shoot him in the field there and then, no idea.
No.
But then she gets shot and she regenerates, and Alex Kingston gets to play a regeneration scene, and apart from a few very obvious "Stephen, put it away" lines, she's having a ball and it's a lot of fun to watch her. Like, she's clearly having a giggle with it. This made you cringe like crazy, though, didn't it?
Oh, the cringe factor was high. It was high. And I didn't like it.
I mean, there's some lines that aren't gratuitous, like the hair, it just keeps going and all that. Like, that's adorable.
Oh, just like the...
And like her like, I think there's a line about her sort of like, I can't remember. She sort of alludes to her bum being bigger.
Yeah, that's...
Which I don't think... I didn't think it was too thingy. It was when she starts... It's when she says, I'm going to go weigh myself.
No.
It's like, what? Why?
What a toxic thing to say.
What a weird... Like, had we seen a male doctor do that up to this point, it wouldn't be as jarring. But the fact that we haven't, it's like, wait, what?
I don't know if it was like this with any other...
I mean, also, she uses that as an excuse to get out of the room so she can plant everything, so she tries to kill him. So she's providing a distraction. It could be she's putting it on, but she's also post-regeneration. The fact that would be one of her first concerns is very like, Stephen,
I don't
did
know.
You let a lady look at this script?
I don't
think you did.
No, very obviously not. I mean, I don't know if anybody else felt a bit triggered by that, but as somebody that has struggled with their image of my whole entire life, that triggered me and made me just like, oh, what a horrible thing to do. Like, the first thing that you're bothered about is your weight.
Yeah.
It might not have, like, he might not have written
He might not have
like
intended
that,
it to be like a body shaming thing,
that's
but
how it came across, and it's like...
It's like how
really
almost
toxic.
all of her character by this point is one of two things. It's the silence plot and how she's involved in it, and her making gratuitous sexual references. I'm just like that. That's all the character has become at this point, and that's not the fault. Again, I can't stress this enough. That is not the fault of Alex Kingston.
No,
she's always going for it. She's always putting all the energy into it. You know, it's a great performance, and there is something genuinely wonderful about seeing a character, any gendered character, being incredibly confident in their appearance and their sexuality and everything. It's wonderfully affirming. It's fun to see.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you freaking go, River. That's amazing. But when that's all she's doing, it becomes a little obvious that it's kind of script level leering.
It's tiresome, and I mean, it's getting to the point where I can hear my own eyes rolling.
There's one line that isn't a Moffat-y thing. It's just a fun little silly joke. Sorry, a Moffat horn thing. It's just a silly joke about the continuity of the show, where she says that she might start to age herself backwards gradually just to freak people out.
That's funny.
Which is a funny little joke to be like, yes, the first time you saw this actor in the role was 3 to 4 years ago. She's gonna look different if she keeps appearing in the show. So, ha ha ha.
I just find that character just absolutely tiresome now. When it was, say, the episode with the angel, you know, in the trailer when Amy was stuck on her own, she was locked in that. Oh, when you see the trailer,
you mean the van at the research thing?
Yeah.
The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone.
Yeah.
Series
River
5.
was really good in that.
She's amazing in that. Incredible use of the
character.
character.
Because it wasn't...
The flirting is subtle and sweet and still mysterious because we don't know enough about her. Her playing dressed up as Cleopatra in the finale still isn't too over the top with that stuff, because you just sort of go, it's setting up that she likes to have fun with her adventures and all of her her plans.
But when it's just...
Well, what does she do? She kisses him with a poison lipstick, plays with her boobs in front of some Nazis.
It's like, no.
And then makes an entire room full of people get nearly naked so she can try on all of their outfits.
It's not fun. It's not funny. It's not endearing. It's not...
Do you know why it feels weird?
Very annoying.
It's a kid's show.
Yeah.
It just feels a little too... Her doing that, the whole and I've got nothing to wear, take off your clothes, like little Terminator reference, feels like it belongs in a draft of a Sherlock script. It feels like a Moriarty kind of thing.
I think of it like this as well. There's all this serious stuff going on. It's like there's two tones to the episode.
I mean, for fuck's sake, pardon my language.
Ooh.
We're in the midst of the Third Reich.
Yeah.
Hitler is in this episode, not just the title. And it's a comedy romp. I'm not saying they should do a serious story where they face down Hitler. I don't think he deserves the dignity of being delivered with any level of seriousness, which is why the fact that he's treated like crap in the episode is kind of... That's one decision Moffat makes with this that is spot on.
I think it's hilarious that he just gets left in a cupboard.
Rory put Hitler in the cupboard. Putting Hitler in the cupboard. Right. Come on, you.
We were
it's like Rory punches Hitler.
we were doing something the other day, and I just went, did they just leave Hitler in the cupboard?
Yeah.
It was during I was working, and it just popped into my head, and I just felt
because
a very
he's
big
not the
urge
focus
to-
of the episode, even
No,
though he's in the title.
and it makes me laugh that he's just left in the cupboard.
And it kind of feels like a wasted premise, but I don't think for Doctor Who. I think to give him, you either have an episode where he is an antagonistic force, and you do the history lesson angle, and you make sure he has the gravitas of being an antagonistic force. But the more you read into him, the more you learn about him. He was a monster. He was a psychopath.
Yeah.
But he was a petty, vindictive, nasty little man. And I think to paint him as a grand villain in a dramatic sense would be doing him way more of a service. You'd be almost saying that, like, oh no, this guy was like Doctor Doom levels of supervillain. It's like, no, he was petty, shitty little Skeletor.
He was
a
a
man.
monster.
Yeah.
You can't
Oh
compare
yeah. Oh no. Yeah, I'm not denying that at all. But what I'm saying is, like, you're making him appear more like of a ruler. You're giving more of a regal,
You're making him into a character,
a monarch kind of like stature.
Yeah.
If you depict him as the villain, when really he was a nasty little politician who did horrendous things.
Yeah, he did.
And I think treating him like crap the way they do is perfect for the use of him in this episode.
I think that's the only way you could use Hitler in an episode is
it's the Mel Brooks route.
You can't.
You mock him.
Yeah, but you can't do anything more than that because then you're going down the route of, well, why didn't the Doctor stop him? You know, why they did this and that.
And the Doctor gets one. The Doctor gets one like adjacent jab at him where he's like the TARDIS stops the assassination attempt on his life, like when it crashes into place, and he says to the Doctor, he's like, "Thank you, you have just saved my life." And the Doctor goes like, "Please, don't." Like, I can't remember what he says, but he basically says
it wasn't intentional.
It was, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't intentional or whatever. And it's like his one way of saying, "Mate, I did not make that choice, nor would I ever if I had that option." But it also doesn't deal with the tricky thing of, like, you know, Genesis of the Daleks, where that is essentially... Genesis of the Daleks is Doctor Who's version of what would happen if you went back in time and killed Hitler before he rose to power. Yeah. That's what Genesis of the Daleks is. And it's weird that they go back and do it again in a couple of series time from this. But anyway...
but yeah, so I like that. I think that's quite funny because obviously it's a touchy subject to do. Mm. People would have probably been confused as to why they hadn't done it yet. Because it's such an obvious of, oh, you've got a time machine, go and stop Hitler. But obviously that's a fixed point in time, you wouldn't be able to change that. This is literally the only way I think you could get away with doing a Hitler story in a kids
weird
show.
Sentence.
In a kids show.
Yeah.
Like, he's in it for 5 minutes.
Isn't it weird that the Doctor Who related thing around this time that handled the Nazis in a way that was a lot more kind of intimidating and historically accurate and everything was the Sarah Jane Adventures story Lost in Time, where the small fleet of them arrive on the English shore and Clyde's got to deal with them in that chapel. Phenomenal.
Oh, they handled that so well.
It's so good. Let's talk about stuff that works in this. Is that a Russell? I can't remember if it's a Russell. I think it might be a Phil Ford. Let's talk about stuff that works in this. I really like the concept of the Tesselector. At some point in the future, the human race invents a version of time travel, and the first thing they think of doing with it is punishing crappy, nasty people like history's monsters or biggest criminals who they feel didn't get a deserving punishment or end. People who escape justice. What they do is they go back to, like, the last moments of that person's life and pluck them out of time, like, just before or after their death or what have you. So as far as the history books are concerned, yeah, they died in that moment and then whatever. They'll do a cover-up to make sure that they're buried or whatever as far as the public perception is. But they take them and they essentially punish them. We don't find out the extent of the punishment or what it could be, but I love the fact that the Doctor even points out, it's like, really? Like, you invent time travel and this is the first thing you do? Kind of horrific.
Yeah.
And as a sci-fi concept, it's a brilliant sci-fi concept. It's horrible and weird.
They're all mini people in.
Yeah, everyone's been shrunk down.
In a cyborg.
It was some sort of miniaturization ray, says Rory. And Amy's like, how'd you know? And he's like, because there was a ray and now we're miniaturized. Which is Rory gets some brilliant moments in this.
He does.
Could you not ride these? Like, motorcycle. He's like, no, but it's just that sort of day. He gets all the best moments in this. Which is great, considering Amy and Rory's genuine dramatic stake in this story is kind of undercut by the fact that it just suddenly becomes, wait, why is River here? What are we doing?
Oh,
Let's go over here.
I can't believe we're still talking about the same episode. There's so much going on, it's ridiculous.
And yet not much happens at the same time.
It's like a carry-on
They
film.
go from a field
Jesus.
to one room, and then the Doctor spends most of it in the TARDIS off screen. Oh, the bit where he's going through the user interface or whatever, and it becomes Amelia. That's kind of cute. The payoff of it only really works if you've been watching since the start of Series 5.
Yeah.
The fact that it cycles through Rose, Martha, and Donna is quite funny, but the fact they're clearly just like high-res JPEGs is a shame, because if like Amy/Amelia had been as well, and then when it settles on one, the Amelia one starts moving, you'd go, okay, fair enough. But it goes from JPEG to actor. And it's I do love the gag around it though. The whole like, show me a friendly face. Oh no, it's a friendly with a side order of guilt or whatever it is. Someone else changed to Martha and he's like, oh, more guilt. That changed to Donna, he's like, more guilt. And you're just like, funny gag, sure.
But it being little Amelia is very cute. But if you've not seen this,
Since the last series, some of it doesn't.
And
at least you saw Amelia at the beginning of
this.
But
that makes it weirder, because if you've not seen that they have that connection, he gets there when she's that age.
Yeah.
It could just be like, oh, the kid that was in it at the beginning is in it now. What? That just seems weird to me.
So the Tesselector tracks down people, horrible criminals, history's biggest criminals, presumably off-world, because they know about River Song and everything, before the moment of their death takes them away and gives them a punishment that they feel is more fitting or everlasting or whatever. Like it's never confirmed whether or not they postpone the death to punish them or give them prison time, whether they torture them, whether they kill them. It's never outright confirmed. But at one point they get rid of obviously a Nazi officer, zap him into the body when they duplicate him, and he gets killed by the antibodies of the machine.
Yes.
Which are brilliant. They're sort of like this beautiful blend of creepy and naff, and I think they skirt the line brilliantly.
Yeah.
They're such a great prop. And how politely they are. It's like, do not be alarmed. You are about to be disintegrated. Like, you may feel a tingling sensation, and it's just like, that is a fun, that's a fun little sort of, style to deliver that sort of thing in. And I like the idea of, the robot's going to have antibodies as well, just to make sure that nothing's scuttling around inside it that could screw it up. It's like, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. The way Amy takes the crew hostage and that woman gets throttled by the robot before it lasers, so we don't know if she's alive or dead, which means Amy might have just killed a bunch of people in this episode. It's like, wait, what? Though I think it's a fun idea using Karen Gillan to play the Tesselector in the last scene and stuff, so that there's still that presence for her in the story. The Doctor dying is weird because then they have history records of River killing. Well, she kills the Doctor. They know she kills the Doctor. It also confirms that the Doctor dies at Lake Silencio in the year 2011. On the date of the broadcast of the first episode of this series as well. So it confirms that the Doctor dies in 2011. It confirms that River kills the Doctor. It never outright says that River kills the Doctor at Lake Silencio. Right? Because that's a twist they've not revealed yet, that is River in the spacesuit. So, right. But then the Doctor's going to die here because they know that River kills the Doctor and that's what her crime is. So then they start to kill River, even though the Doctor's still alive and has a chance to maybe get out of this, even though this isn't what they have on record as being near the end of her life. So if they take her and kill her now, all the things she does after this point won't happen and time will be rewritten.
And she won't be a criminal.
It's very sloppy. Yeah, it's really sloppy.
It doesn't make any sense.
It does not make sense. Maybe if their mission changed, they sort of do a prime directive thing and they're like, if we can prevent the horrific event, then we will do it. We have to weigh the parameters, so we need to hold her, we need to detain her here right now and figure it out. I just, nah.
It's
It's a crap season opener, considering this was a season opener after a several month break. It also makes you go, so what the frick was the Doctor doing looking for River for the past several months? Was he just sat in the TARDIS? Well, we know, but we'll talk about the prequels later. But yeah, he was mostly just sat in the TARDIS. This wasn't as bad as I remember it being, but I think that's just because I was pleasantly surprised by stuff I didn't remember and how nice it looked. Should we talk about Night Terrors, because the battery's running out?
Let's do it.
Have you come to take me away? Little George, who we met very briefly.
Did we?
We met the actor very briefly. Every time this is brought up, you go, did we? Yeah.
Where?
When I recorded lines for Doctor Who The Adventure Games
sorry.
in 2000 and... recorded them in early 2011, I think it was. Doctor Who The Adventure Games, The Gunpowder Plot. My character had a younger brother, and that's who he played. He voiced that character. And he finished his recording session just before I started mine. You came down, you were there as well.
I was.
Because you got to have some of the legendary Big Finish lunch.
I didn't have anything.
You got to look at the kitchen where the Big Finish lunch is normally served.
Nope, I was sat on the sofa.
You were in the voice booth.
I wasn't in the voice booth.
The direction booth, the sound booth. You were with Gary Russell directing me.
I couldn't see you, but I could hear you. It was really
there you go. But he's great in this.
I was very proud.
I think the stand-up performance in all of this, aside from the kid though, is it's a joint first place with Daniel Mays and Matt Smith.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they play off of each other so well in this one.
Yeah.
This again is one I've not, because we didn't get around to doing a Time Team pre-article thing for this. The last time I've watched this would just be the last time I gave Series 6 a spin, which was probably 2012. Really? So it's been about 10 years since I've seen this episode. I really like this one. I really, really like this one. And do you know why? It feels like one that's been in... Mark Gatiss wrote this one.
Obviously.
It feels like one that's been sat in Mark's head for a very long time.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I've been commissioned to write one for this series. It feels like oh, I've got a great idea. And Stephen's gone, right, well, do you want one this series then? Okay, yeah, cool. Do you know what I mean? Because, and we were talking about this during, weren't we? You could swap the Doctor, Amy and Rory out for, like, the Doctor, Ben and Polly.
Yeah.
Or the Doctor, Jamie and Victoria. Or Jamie and Zoe. You could swap them out for the Doctor, like, Turlo and Perry. Or,
I mean, don't.
Or like the Doctor, Rose and Mickey. Like it feels like you could very easily.
It's very much a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, it and not in it's just throwaway. Like no, absolutely, the inflections and the strengths of the actors in question are used.
Yeah.
But it's just such a strong idea for a Doctor Who that it works.
Yeah.
Again, if you're watching this, you've watched it. George. He's really an alien. That's the twist. But it's a great story about like fears and anxieties and how how they can override your life and how, if not kept in check at a young age, it can shape the person you become.
Yeah.
I love the idea.
Don't put everything in the closet.
Yeah, and again,
especially when it's in your bedroom.
There's no villain, but there is, because like George's fears create like threats. So. It's not there was no villain. It's he nearly killed them all by accident. Like, those dolls were probably dolls in the house, but they weren't moving around and, like, transforming people into... I forgot that happened.
I always get this episode mixed up with one that's coming up with the Minotaur.
The God Complex?
Yeah, I always get it mixed up. And I remember watching it thinking, where's this Minotaur? Isn't it say a hotel?
No, that's the God Complex.
What?
No, that's next.
And then
I
thought the peg dolls were in that.
No, the ventriloquist dolls are in that.
I'm still convinced.
The weirdly cheap-looking ventriloquist dolls are in that.
Yeah,
that are well made, but do not look like ventriloquist dolls.
As someone who has a fear of ventriloquist dolls, I am not freaked out by them because they just look silly.
What about the peg dolls? I think they look super creepy.
They are friggin' horrifying.
Yeah.
Of course, Mark Gatiss wrote this.
The transformation.
Ew, the sound.
The sound they make, the way that the Karen Gillan and the fella playing the landlord are sort of having a fit. And you can't see them properly. You see the back of their head.
Yeah.
It's like with Amy, it's just her hair just like jostling in one place. It's really gross.
That's the worst.
And again, like as a young kid watching that one of your companions gets turned into a terrifying doll thing. Like there's some old school Doctor Who kind of stuff going on here. That's why I think it's one that probably sat in his mind for a while. Because like you, there's some of that proper behind the sofa stuff in this.
Yeah, definitely.
That not all the modern, not a lot of the modern era gets stuck into.
The fact that they talk, but obviously their faces don't move, like laughing and saying,
the giggles.
Come play with us, don't run away.
Something in the bins. In the bins outside, the notion of hearing a noise late at night, putting the bin out and be like, who's that? Where the old woman gets dragged into the bin. Like,
and,
that's the thing we all like. If you ever taken the bin out late at night, whether you're in a block of flats and it's a big stack of them, whether it's taking them to the edge of your street, whatever, you hear a noise late at night taking the bins out, and you go, "How was that?" So, like, that's a common one. There are people who have phobias of elevators and lifts, and there are people who just don't feel comfortable in lifts.
And obviously, all scary toys and the
scary toys,
the monster in the closet, and
the scary landlord with the scary dog. Like, just so many great. Like the old woman walking past, terrifying George because the sound of her breathing makes him think it's a monster outside, and it's just because she's knackered and walking up 7 flights of stairs.
Yeah,
like it's. I think it's very well observed. I also think that have you got the wiki up for this one? The next one along. Because I want to know who directed this one, because this is one of the most interesting looking episodes this series.
Oh, sorry, hold on.
You're right.
Yeah, it's cancelled it.
Cancelled.
What's it called?
Night Terrors.
Night Terrors.
Because like just
it's just showing me Night Terrors now.
Just pictures of your sleep paralysis demon. Your sleep paralysis demon's Instagram's just come up.
Oh no! Oh.
What?
The faces of those dolls.
Who's the director?
Sorry.
Battery!
Sorry. Oh no.
On Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Scroll down.
Richard Clark.
Richard Clark does a fantastic job directing this one, especially early on. Like, shots in the dollhouse to obscure the fact it's a dollhouse quite good, because they obviously shot like on location and then made tweaks to the set and the set to the place they were shooting in to make certain surfaces look like certain types of wood blown up to larger sizes and things like that. The props team do a great job with all the little bits and pieces. Like, when they pick up the lantern and you're like, Amy and Rory, I love you, but how the hell have you not figured out that that's a toy lantern?
Yeah.
Like, made big.
Made
but, like, the way Richard Clark shoots, especially the apartment block, the council flats, at the opening. This is like the second sort of, big set of flats like this in the modern era outside of the Powell estate from the first couple of years. And that one sort of was distinct because it was this big courtyard in the middle of the block. Or in the first episode, like the exterior with the zigzag stairs, which gets reused in Clara's era in a way where you're like, so is that Rose's apartment block, or we're giving up trying to make it look like a different location? I know it's been 10 years, guys, but come on. Whereas with this, it's all these really long entranceways and balconies. And I wouldn't, you know what? Now I've said it out loud, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the same location from the Hellboy remake. Alice's flat. I think it's the same location.
With
I would not be. Forget the film, but like that. Do you remember the way that building was shaped and everything?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was the same block of flats, because I know they did a lot of the shooting of that over here in the UK. I mean, most of it's set in the UK, so that would make sense.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Can you put my slippers back on?
Jesus,
My
wet.
tootsies are cold. It's cold.
Started snowing. That's why.
You're joking?
Keep looking every now and again. It drizzles down. We're in March, by the way.
You're
it's about to turn
joking?
April. I'm not joking. There was snow a second ago. Anyway.
What is going on?
Oh
my god, you're right, it is.
Oh my god, battery! The battery's running out! We've got a whole other episode
really
to talk
hot the other
about!
day, and now it's snowing. I don't understand what's going on. This world is going to implode.
I really enjoyed this. It was a simple, straightforward, spooky little tale with a really good cast. Some of the best stuff in it was the stuff between Matt Smith and Daniel Mays.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, their back and forth. Him realising, like, by spilling out that, like, they couldn't have kids. And that sudden realisation of, but how do they have a kid?
Yeah.
That they have photo evidence of them growing up, and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's not. He's not adopted. It's not surrogate.
But
He's like, oh my god, how could I forget that she couldn't have kids?
It kind of implies that they wanted a kid so much they just kind of accepted it.
Yeah, and obviously, as we learn, George is like a type of creature that essentially exists to find companionship and love.
Yeah.
Like it needs to be raised.
So
it means
cute.
them no harm whatsoever, but because it's a being of like emotion and empathic telepathy, essentially, like it manifests its fears.
Yeah.
And it turned out his biggest fear is that he didn't feel like he belonged. Because he was so worried that are you coming to take me away? He was like, his biggest fear was that he was going to have to go to a doctor or see a hospital, go stay in a hospital or something to deal with his phobias. He felt like he was being given away. So as soon as his dad reassures him that he's his dad and, I'll always be your dad and you're never going anywhere, everything goes back to normal. Very sweet. The day is saved with love, but it's still a scary, series of events leading up to it. I love the little notion at the end of he might bloom up again in his teens. Do be careful.
And he says it'll come and see him. Like, oh, thanks. He'll come and check on him, and it's like, oh, that's so cute.
And I like that he trusts Amy and Rory to be able to handle themselves. Like at the end, he genuinely is happy to see that they're okay, but he's not sort of like, oh my god, we made it through. It's so he sits down between them, it's like a little slap on the leg and a little slap on the leg and stuff. And it's just sort of like, okay, off we go. Like it feels very Monster of the Week, and I quite enjoyed it for that reason.
I am struggling with them just kind of accepting that, oh, we had a baby, and it's this woman that we've known for a long time.
The series arc is the biggest.
Let's carry on.
The series arc is the biggest detriment to Series 6 so far.
It doesn't sit right with me
because when you get a Monster of the Week episode or a standalone like Curse of the Black Spot or this one or whatever, it kind of feels a bit like, are we not going to get back to the...
Yeah, it just feels really weird. And surely Amy would be absolutely traumatised.
But as a fan of the show, you at least know this episode's one you could just, if you wanted to pick a random 11th Doctor story, you could just put this one on.
Yeah.
And it works, because it doesn't... You don't have to suddenly go, oh yeah, the arc. But in the marathon, it feels weird.
It doesn't sit right.
We have another standalone episode next, and quite possibly the best episode of this series.
Yeah.
Agreed. Could you bring up the article as well, because I want to touch on the direction of this one. The Girl Who Waited.
How many episodes have been...
Oh, was it The Woman Who Waited?
Something Waited.
This is it.
Oh. It feels like there was... No, ignore me.
I was going to pull that off the episode listing, but it's not at the back.
I've got really itchy
Is it The Girl Who Waited or The Woman Who Waited? If you're Night Terrors, there's a little... At the bottom of the box at the top, that you should have the option for next episode.
The Girl Who Waited.
The Girl Who Waited.
But why do I feel like... What was the first episode called of Matt's...
The 11th Hour. But he refers to Amelia Pond, the girl who waited. That's what this is named after. It's named after the nickname he gives the last series.
Yeah.
Who directed this one?
Nick Hurren.
Nick Hurren, and who wrote this one?
Tom McRae.
Tom McRae. Okay.
Script editor Caroline Henry.
Okay, stop.
Produced
now.
by
Battery. The power, not the crime. So. This is amazing.
Wait, what were we talking about?
The Girl Who Waited.
Oh yeah, sorry.
This is amazing.
Where did they think they were going?
Wherever it is, it's like a relaxation, scenic place.
Right,
they're going
taking
somewhere.
people to spas because it never ends well.
Well, Rory says that he's like, you didn't check for plague, and somebody's like, for God's sake, because the point is they get there and they think they're somewhere else. Turns out the entire place is in quarantine because of a virus. The whole planet's in quarantine because of this virus.
Yeah, that only affects aliens.
Being sort of from that far out in
Time-Lords.
the galaxy and stuff, so like not Time Lords, but like the Doctor is susceptible to it. So he spends the majority of the episode in the TARDIS.
I love that they all go.
Just hold their breath and
Just
stuff.
don't breathe. It's like, what?
But
You just took a big deep breath in, so that's
But the way they admit people into the quarantine zones and their various rooms and spaces is by having hundreds of thousands of people in the facility at one time, but by keeping them separate, they can double the amount of... By keeping them separated by, like, a second in time, essentially, they can keep double the amount of people there.
And never have them interact.
Yeah, the ones who are, like, the most heavily either potentially infected or are infected or whatever are kept away from those who aren't showing symptoms or who are visiting them or whatever.
Yeah.
And the only way they can see each other is through these magnifying glasses that allow them to kind of see the other timeline. But the timelines are operating on a different path. As the Doctor says, there's a really compassionate idea where if someone has got this thing and they're not going to be able to recover and they're going to die, they can at least live out the rest of their days in a way where their family or friends can see them and come and talk to them. But those who are in the infected zone, time compared to the other one moves at a faster rate. So you're not waiting around on a loved one who is sick in a hospital bed. You could see them once a day every day for like 10 days, and you'll see them going through like the next 10 years of their life in a way where to them time's taken that long, but they have entertainment, they have hospitality, they have recreational spaces to recover, they've got the best medical treatment they can get, and they also are in this sort of wavelength where they don't need food or sleep unless they want to have that as part of their relaxation. Like the way that it keeps them essentially is that they move at a faster rate.
They're two of my favourite things.
I know, but like, and it's sort of, it's like, it's a very, as they sort of, the episode doesn't go, oh, that's better. The episode goes, no, it's horrible, but it's always horrible. At least this way it can be as painless as possible for everyone.
Yeah, but that person would only see their loved ones like once a year.
Yeah.
How is that a good thing?
Don't know. Oh, it also depends on how long they live for, though, isn't it? That's the point. It's not necessarily that they'd be there for 10 years. They might only be there for a year.
No, but still, I mean...
No, so to them, the visits would be like every couple of months, whereas in reality, the person visiting them is spending like 2 or 3 days doing it.
Well, surely...
In a row.
You'd want to see them more.
Maybe.
This is kind of implying that you don't really like your family, do you?
But also, you can't be with them, because if you are, you'll get infected as well. That's the point. Like, the thing is so contagious that you have to be kept separated.
Weird.
Yeah, it's grim, but in a really wonderfully weird sci-fi way that you could only really do in something like this. It's kind of hard to grasp, and even now, as I'm saying it aloud, I'm like, I'm sure I'm missing details out here. But the point
really
is,
make sense to me, but I think it's because I'm missing something. But
they arrive. Amy ends up in the faster time stream. The Doctor and Rory end up in the other one.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the place is either long since cleared out of people, or like they are there at like the very back end of the queue of everything in a way. Like maybe there are other people there in quarantine, completely quarantined, separated, and we just don't see them because, of course, they're like quarantined. They have their own recreation zones. Because we see at one point, like Amy visits like a tranquil garden. She's given all these options of places to go to and spend her time. But there's also the hand bots, as they're called in the script. These things that walk around with like friendly little face displays on their heads, and well, no, they're blank faces, but they're sort of meant to look non-threatening. And then they've got these big old rubber hands, which
they kind of see through, don't they?
That's what they see. Yeah, that's their like their eyes and everything. But it's also where they could administer like anaesthetic.
The enticement.
Yeah,
I don't like them.
Like they don't look creepy. The notion of them is creepy.
They're definitely creepy because they walk.
Oh, the way they walk is adorable.
I don't like it.
Which is why it's creepy. Because like they have this adorable, non-threatening waddle. But you know that if it gets up to you, it's going to knock you out and complete. Because that's the thing; they don't mean them any harm. Like they're not a threat. No, but they're not though. They're not a threat.
Yeah. They're
just a threat to the plan. You know what I mean? Like they're going to screw over the plan.
Yeah, there's something like the jab that they give you can kill you or something, isn't it?
I think it's something along the lines of like if you get knocked out, you're essentially at their mercy. And again, they're just going to put you in quarantine. So you'll end up just like living out your days.
I'm sure it was something that if a human gets, like jabbed by this, there's the anaesthetic, but then there's also the...
Maybe. Oh no, that was it, the cure. Yes, if they get given the cure, or like not the cure, but like the antidote and the medicine for the disease, it could kill them. And because they've not got the disease, that's why. Yeah, you're right. That was it. Because it's a two-pronged thing, isn't it? They can knock you out, but if they
There's
try and
worry-
give you the medication...
If they touch you, it's an anaesthetic and it puts you to sleep.
Yes, and... Oh no, that's when they look scary. When they go all Demogorgon and their heads open up with like a bloody pea shooter style.
I was going to say pea shooter. What are they called? Blow dart.
Blow dart. Like a dart gun, blow dart sort of thing. Where their heads open up and they look terrifying.
We got there together.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, you're right. It's like the anaesthetic is going to hamper the plan, and if they try to give you any of the medicine, like their body's not prepared for it. They're different, like, physiology from everything that's on this planet, but also if they had the virus, at least it'd be something combating it, but they don't, so it's just gonna like kill them essentially.
And the doctor can't go in because it's so contagious.
The whole any of it in the environment, if he gets
it wouldn't affect them, but it affects him.
That's not the main reason this story is interesting. This story gives us a horror version of the companion exit story.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the idea played out on screen, most notably in School Reunion in the modern series too. The idea of a companion who was left the TARDIS, was left behind, in Sarah Jane's case, leaves because she's not allowed to go, and they were kind of having a fallout anyway, and then he gets the summons to Gallifrey, and he's like, I'm not allowed to take you.
And he drops her off somewhere.
And it's the wrong place. Wasn't correct. And then she catches up to him and is like, I waited for you. Death of the Doctor, the Sarah Jane Adventure story, we get that with Jo, the idea of her being like, you never came back.
Yeah.
This isn't them parting. This is Amy being stuck in one location for 30 years.
Stuck in a time.
In a time, she doesn't eat, she doesn't sleep. She doesn't need those things, but she's trying to stay alive because if she gets the shot, she could die.
Yeah.
So much is left unsaid. It's all about the emotion being put into it, especially by Karen Gillan, but also by the subtle costume designs, like the way that her outfit is a mod of the clothes she showed up in, with kind of basically sort of crude body armour to protect her from injections, made out of bits of the handbots and other things.
Yeah.
Like bits of furniture and stuff, and I think part of it's porcelain from one of the vases, the pottery thing that's in the corridors and everything. She's made a den, in the middle of the maintenance corridors where, the mists that are in there as part of the cleansing stuff can blind the robot's sensors. She's hacked one of them to sort of create a companion to help her do things, and she's called it Rory and drawn a Sharpie face on its domed head.
And cut its hands off.
Cut its hands off so it can't, do anything. So it can't see, but it also can't, knock her out.
It's literally there as a companion, as another being that's there, so she's not lonely. And
we don't see her festering. We don't see her stewing. We see 30 years of resentment for her husband and especially her supposed best friend, because this Amy's been left there for 30. As far as she's concerned, she's been left there for 30 years. They never came back for her, and she's had to fend for herself, and she hates them.
Yeah.
Although as the story goes on, you realise she's starting to warm back up to Rory because she
loves him.
She loves him, and her husband is back.
Yeah.
And as he says, this is us coming back for you. We didn't abandon you. As far as we're concerned, we immediately set off to get here. We've got here. We didn't leave. This wasn't meant to happen. But what makes it brilliant is the moral dilemma. Because they realise that they can figure out how to get to original Amy through a bit of, sci-fi technockery.
Yeah, technockery.
And if they do that,
technical term,
then this never happened. But they've now met this Amy, who exists because the circumstances happened.
Yeah.
And she does not want to die. Because she knows she will disappear from existence. And the Doctor's looking at it from the point of view of, you'll never have been, you'll never have to have suffered. And she's like, but I have, and this is who I am because of this, and I don't want that taken away. And you suddenly go, oh my god, no sci-fi thing that does alternate timeline stories ever tackles this.
No.
like, our heroes go back to the future or whatever, and they show up and they do their thing and they go, oh god, this is all wrong, Biff's the president, oh, this is terrible, oh, we need to figure it out, and they go back, well, yeah, you know what I mean, but like, they go back and they resolve everything, yeah? And then when they get back to the future, everything's fine again, yeah? Back to the Future sort of does something with this. Like older Biff Tannen in part 2 going back to younger Biff Tannen to try and change his future.
Yeah.
But that's him trying to change it, probably not realising that he will then vanish from existence. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't realise he will no longer exist. But, like, he's looking out for himself, both young and old. Whereas this is the notion of older Amy going, no, I don't want to not exist anymore.
Yeah.
But the Doctor and Rory being like, Rory especially is very conflicted because he wants to do what she wants because she deserves things to go her way.
Yeah.
Having suffered 30 years waiting for them,
And
the least they can, it's still his Amy, and the least they can give her is like what she wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as the Doctor points out, and as Rory's conflicted on, their Amy, unquote, is stuck there, and they can go and save her. So they sort of want to have their cake and eat it. Like, but throughout, the Doctor's only got there's only one resolution he's going to do, which is rescuing Amy in the first place and resetting the timeline.
Yeah.
Because he's a Time Lord. He's a time traveller. He knows that this isn't nice, but it's the thing that will correct everything.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, they'll move on.
It's really sad because
Rory's essentially getting a glimpse of what it's like to be a Time Lord.
Amy's not gonna know, really, is she? She knows that there's another Amy.
She knows that there was another Amy, but she doesn't know what she went through exactly. And I love the idea that we see the conversation between the two of them through the timelines, through the magnifying glass. And we learn that old Amy remembers having this conversation as young Amy.
Yeah.
So this always happened. But here it's kind of swayed slightly because she manages, again, through Rory and what Rory means to them, she manages to convince older Amy that, like, no, we need to figure this out. Like, we need to figure this out in some way. And then she's like, I'll help you if I get to live.
Yeah.
Like, we will rescue young me. I get to live. And then there's this whole sort of thing of like, so he's going to be, like, Rory's going to have to, like, basically have two versions of his wife. He's going to, they have to figure out how to live. And then she's like, no, seriously, like, the what I've been through, I want to go out there.
Yeah. So
don't worry about me. Like, I'm just going to go off into the universe.
You just drop me off somewhere.
Yeah. And it's like, okay,
hello.
I guess that feels like, as that's happening, you're like, okay, so that's how they're going to resolve this then. Like, there's going to be another Amy out there and whatever. No, it was never going to happen because the paradox was too much.
Exactly, the paradox.
So the Doctor locks the door. Oh, that bit where they first meet. They meet eyes for the first time in Amy's POV in 30 years. And she just sees him in the doorway and he just goes, I'm sorry. And he just closes and locks the latch. It's heartbreaking.
It's hard to, yeah.
The Doctor does not come out of this as a warm and fuzzy character. He's never nasty, and he's doing what has to be done. But this is very much a fuck around and find out time travel story. And it's really upsetting. And it's played brilliantly by Arthur Darvill. Like, the bit where he, like, basically bollocks the Doctor and is like, if this is what travelling with you is, then I don't want to do it anymore. He
gets to show up his chops in this story.
There's some brilliant direction with the use of the glasses, like the way they do the shots with the glasses as a camera and everything is so well done.
Yeah.
Biggest shout out to the makeup team for believably aging Karen Gillan 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, very true.
Bit of grey wouldn't have hurt. Just a bit of grey in the hair wouldn't have hurt, really. Just a little bit. But especially the makeup around the eyes is so believable. And I guess we'll see if it worked. Like, another 17 years from now, we'll look at Karen Gillan's face and see if she looks like older Amy in this episode. But also to Karen Gillan.
Yeah.
Because what a performances.
She plays it very well that she's very bitter and very angry. Like, she's obviously got past the point where she's sad.
Yeah.
And she's mad.
Yeah.
But also, it shows how much of a badass she is because she made her own sonic screwdriver. Sonic probe.
Sonic probe. And then at the end, she's like, screwdriver!
It's a screwdriver! And, yeah, it's just... And she's just a real badass, and... I forgot where I was going with that.
It's a great performance, essentially. Like, there's a lot... You feel the weight of everything she's gone through mentally. Because that's the thing, physically, she's not gone through a lot. It's all been mental. It's been 30 years of stewing in bitterness, and like you said, coming out the back of it and just being angry. She's not bitter. She's not sad. She's not heartbroken. She's pissed. And that's where she is when they catch back up to her. I think... I mean, I might change my mind because God Complex is one of my favourite stories from this series. But so far in this marathon, this is my favourite story of the series. Not one I'd go back to a lot. I wouldn't be like, let's put on The Girl Who Waited, because I'd just come out of it feeling really depressed. Depressing. But like, this is my favourite one of the series. What about you?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you on my favourite episode of the series.
What, next time? When we're going to talk about the God Complex, Closing Time, and The Wedding of River Song, the Series 6 finale, which we'll be recording in like 3 weeks in real time, because I'm buggering off to do an Easter Panto now.
Where are we up to as we're filming this now? What's gone out already?
That's a complicated question. It's like asking me how the time differential works in The Girl Who Waited.
How does the TARDIS work?
Oh, God. Let us know down in the comments below. What do you think of these episodes? Do you think we're giving Night Terrors way too much praise?
Are you having a nice time? Are you safe? Are you happy? It's bloody snowing. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's snowing. It's really... It's snowing.
I don't get it!
It's April in 2 days and it's snowing.
It was so hot the other day and now it's snowing.
It's gone from shorts weather to...
You were wearing shorts yesterday. I don't understand. Anyway.
Bye.
Bye. Doctor Who and that.